flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our July 12th, 2022 Tiverton School Committee meeting. I ask for motion to approve the consent agenda.
Dr. Larkin, I'd like to pull one item off of the consent agenda, the letter we received in correspondence.
Okay. You need a motion and vote for that?
No, we can.
Yeah, okay.
It's just pulled and then we'll deal with it.
Yeah, I'm trying to sign in, but it's not really, oh, there it goes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the remaining consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Consent agenda is approved.
Dr. Larkin?
Yep.
I'd asked you to move up 7C to number
Excuse me,
1.
Dr.
Yeah,
Sanquioni,
so
we still have
we
to
have
finish the consent agenda.
Okay.
So, Mrs. Farnworth?
So I just wanted to call attention to the fact that we have received a letter from the Rhode Island Department of Education informing us that we have been approved for two new programs for CTE. And I don't know, Mrs. Craven, if you wanted to speak to that a little bit? Sorry to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you're
No worries
well-versed.
whatsoever. So the two programs, Certified Nursing Assistant is one of the programs, and I had spoken to you at the beginning of the year about CNA and getting permission to offer that pathway. Well, we went through a rigorous process, and we were now able to get full certification for a career and technical education program. So we're very excited about that. We did receive some Perkins funding for the program, so we were able to purchase the items needed for the program. And then informational technology, which is something that Judy Moore has been working on for a couple of years. That's the second program that we received approval for.
And thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
working so hard on that. And again, I just want to recognize the fact that Tiverton High School has indeed been accepted for these two additional CTE programs.
Yes, we're very excited.
Thank you.
Any questions for the rest of the committee?
I had one question.
Yep.
Do we have staffing in place for both of those new
Yes, we do.
programs? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You're
Anyone
welcome.
else? Congratulations, thank you.
Thank you.
done. Okay, I'm going to ask for motion to move up item 7C, the core organization.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Okay, I'll ask for a vote. Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So, Ms. Christ, welcome.
You need to turn on your mic.
You think I know these things.
Thank you.
I'm just here officially to announce some really amazing awards, some grant awards. I also want to let everyone know that our art literacy camp kicked off this week. And Sue Ordell, thank you so much. It's going really, really well. And for those of you that aren't familiar, we're in our 15th year, and kids have math, reading, science, computer skills, and STEM. We take a lunch and a play break, an actual recess play break, and we come back for fine arts and performing arts in the afternoon. It's a full day. We have 42 kids representing all of the schools. And our mentors, our volunteers, are actually, some of them started with this camp when they were 5 and 6, are now entering high school. So it's a great full circle, and it's really a very powerful camp. We have Sue Cordoza and Sherry Alves, myself, and we actually this year added a SEL educator part of the rotation. So the kids do their morning rotation and meet with us. So thank you once again. It's really great. So just a couple of things that we're really excited about. The United Way of Greater Fall River Impact Grant was awarded to us again for our second year, specifically to provide social emotional arts integrated programming for Tiverton schools. What that means is we'll continue on with our after-school arts enrichment, any special programs that might fall under the umbrella will be supplemented with this grant. It's really nice when we have a new funder and they're able to look at what we did with a certain amount of money and they come back for the second year and give us a little bit more money to continue the work that we're doing. And it's exciting that we can also offer it here in the Tiverton schools. We have a new grant this year, the Prince Foundation. Specifically, this grant is helping middle school students move more. So I created a special program called Moving Through Emotions, which is dance and music and spoken word, and it's going to fall under our Who Am I Anyway umbrella, which is for 5th through 8th graders specifically. So this will stay in the Tiverton School District. And it's a 16-week program. We're in our 8th year that is integrated and helps middle schoolers deal with middle school issues in addition to healthy relationships. With this particular grant, we're moving more, knowing that kids have suppressed a lot of emotions. That's why we're adding the dance and executive functioning with some drumming and cognitive skills. We're also creating life-size portraits this year with a very special type of product. It's corrugated cardboard, and these kids will actually be creating life-size images of themselves. And then, and I think Greg Thompson, hey Greg, is there with us. We partnered with Strategic Prevention Partnerships, which is a division of Newport County Prevention Coalition, to launch peer productions here at Tiverton High School last year. No other school in the state of Rhode Island is doing what this grant does. Our first film premiered April 30th. We had about 200 people here for our red carpet premiere. It was incredibly successful. Greg, are you able to speak? Did you want to say anything about our second year? Or
Productions is a production for youth by youth. So this is completely youth driven. We had youth discussing what their topics were, what was really on their minds, what was really pressing them, what they were really going through. A big thing that we learned throughout our surveys with meeting with the youth is that youth are tired of adults telling them how they feel without listening to how the youth actually feel. So Peer Productions was created. The first movie was about anxiety, isolation, depression. We tried to put that all into one movie, which came out as White Noise. Had a great premiere, had a great following, and we're looking to continue this and continue to grow the peer production group. Hopefully bring in more schools and continue to let this story be told from youth and by youth.
Thank you. So just to highlight a little bit of that, we actually had the success of this launch. Their peers, there was 6 young women started this film process here. Their peers dressed up in tuxedos and gowns, and we actually had a red carpet, and they came to support their fellow classmates who created this world premiere. It's rare that you see these things happen. It was really beautiful. So we're back for year 2 here at Tiverton High School. And like always, Sue approved the script. There's a process in place with all of our programs. So that is completely 100% funded. Core Youth Theater has some funding again to add another social emotional educator. We tried that this year, noticing that our middle schoolers really dysregulated and really having a difficult time connecting socially and emotionally. And so we added a layer of support where we integrated just more discussions and language about feelings, relationships, and reacting and not reacting. What we are seeing is a lot of impulsive behavior and a lot of reactive behavior. And I think it's just because young people are coming out of the pandemic. So we will continue to add mental health and social emotional into all of our programs. not in a diagnostic way, but in a supportive, layered, safety, secure way, so that as the world becomes more insecure, we can create an arts network that's helping young people feel more secure. And finally, we had a little bit of funding left over from the Arts and Academics Rhode Island Foundation grant. And we went on wish list and we purchased STEM kits and robotic kits that each and every school is going to get. Principals, you can decide how you want to use them. There's a couple of robotics kits. They're all age appropriate. So obviously elementary principals, you'll get the kits that are appropriate for your grades. Middle school has a couple of robotics where teams can create an actual moving and speaking robot. So that's where we are. And I just wanted to make it official and say, you know, we are honored to continue doing the work that we're doing. It's impactful work, and I am always supportive and appreciative of our funders who recognize the work that we're doing and will continue to do so that children feel safe and creative and are able to express themselves. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Gloria. I'll open it up to the committee. Mrs. Palish?
Thank you so much for coming, and we always appreciate the updates and the long partnership that we've had with yourself and CORE, and the integration with arts. It's so important. I know it's near and dear to your heart, so we do thank you for your continued commitment to it. Just for people who may not know, most of these things are extracurricular activities, and so if they have any questions or if someone wants to know how to sign up, they can either reach out to yourself or any of the principals. Is that?
Yes, it's thinkfeelcreate.org. We do work with the principals once we announce our programs that are starting. We typically run October through June with all of our programmings in 6-week formats. And everyone knows ahead of time what's being offered. And we never turn a student away.
Thinkfeelcreate.org. Okay.
Yep, and everything is listed there. And also, let me say, if there's something specific that principals want in their school that falls under our mission, we're happy to make that happen. So, you know, like we did the hub here at the high school, which was something small but impactful. So,
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dakotas?
Hi, Gloria.
Hi.
My daughter is a more well-rounded person because of you. So thanks for all you do with the CORE organization.
Thank you
We see
very
it in
much.
our own children. Thank you.
It's my honor.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mrs. Pivo?
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, I would echo the thanks from all of us. The one thing, as you were explaining, the number of programs, I'm thinking back to when you first started with this organization, that it was much smaller and a much simpler remit, and see how it's expanded to cover all kinds of age groups. And certainly I heard, you know, to Mike's point, that the theater effort at the middle school last year was phenomenal. That
Thank you.
It came out wonderfully, as well as that White Noise premiere. Heard lots about that too.
Thank you.
You know, thank you for all you do, and keep it coming. I think, you know, social
I'm
and
working on it.
emotional learning.
Thank you. We really love what we do, and I'm very fortunate that our staff are just some really exceptional people that love what they do and love working with young people. So I'm honored to do it, and we'll keep doing it.
Mr. Farley?
You know, just those same points. I know I'm going to talk into the mic, so I apologize for not having eye contact. But, you know, a lot of high schoolers and a lot of middle schoolers, the CORE organization means a lot. So I thank you for that. And I thank you for, you know, focusing, again, on hearing what the students need and giving it to them. Thank you.
And anything from any of our administrators?
Just thank you for everything you do. We do appreciate it, and I know the students benefit a lot from your help and assistance throughout the year, so thanks.
Thank you. That really means a lot to me. I appreciate what you said. It's not easy work, and the proof is in the self-awareness pudding. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks again, Gloria. Okay, I think we're up to item 7A, annual review of school handbooks. Peter, I assume you want to take these one at a time.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do, and we have the high school up first, although I do want to preface this that maybe to save some time. In all of our handbooks, we've changed the attendance policy, and the reason for that being is we're following the RIGL guidelines on that. So you're going to see the same language in there regarding attendance, and I think that's just a clear way of describing what attendance really is. It's either you're present or you're absent. There's no such thing as an excused absence, or never has been. We don't want to get into the field of having to decide what is excusable or not. RIDE doesn't recognize that. Our reporting mechanisms with RIDE reflect the fact that you're either present or you're absent. So I think that clarity for all parents would be helpful, and for our students. So with that as a precursor, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Craven to talk about the high school changes.
Thank you. For your approval, I have the student parent handbook. There were some considerable changes made to this handbook, and that's because it hadn't been updated in a few years. So you had an opportunity to review this handbook, and I'm going to turn it over to you to see if there's questions you may have about the additions that have been made or changes that have been made to the handbook.
Okay, I'll open the floor to the committee. Mrs. Pavo?
I just had a couple of little things. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
You may want to
I'm
move it
loud,
closer
so
to
I
you, too.
never remember I need to be louder.
Peter may want to move
Let me just get to...
Oh, Mike.
it. Right, somewhere. Do you want us to come back
It
to
was
you,
a
Elaine?
couple of little, wasn't anything to change. Let someone else go first, and I'll
Okay.
catch up with that, because they weren't major things. They were
Okay.
just little things.
Mrs. Farnworth?
So I do have a couple of comments. One has to do, and I don't have it up in front of me, the section, and I apologize for that. It had to do with the line that was in the original book, that it was around cell phone usage at the high school. And there was a strikeout to say that cell phones can be used in class with permission from the teacher, as long as it's part of the class instruction. And again, I'm paraphrasing, I don't have it up in front of me. And that line got struck out. Could you talk to that a little bit?
At the beginning of this year, and I'm sure Sam can talk to it as well, because the teachers and students and I came together to kind of look at what was interrupting education in the classroom. And the consistency across the high school was important. So if we had one teacher who's saying you can have your cell phone out during instruction, another that was saying you cannot, we agreed as a group with department chairs and the teachers at a faculty meeting that it was more important that we were consistent in saying cell phone usage in a classroom isn't allowed, given that students have their Chromebooks now. I mean, that was something that was in there a while ago. Now, if there is a situation in which a teacher at their discretion wants that phone out, we haven't run into any situations or difficulties with the teacher just, expressing that to the students with an understanding that there are times when they have to be put away. But as a group, we decided it was best to take it out of the handbook.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Secondly, I know that there is a section that discusses student parking. I didn't see any changes made to that section, and you probably are aware that I've had some conversations with Dr. Sanchioni regarding some issues in the parking lot, and I'm just wondering why perhaps there weren't some adjustments made to consequences for those students should they violate the rules of, I'll say, decorum in the parking lot, especially at dismissal?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Actually, I had a meeting with Officer Raposa on that yesterday. What I want to do, I'll make an amendment to the handbook, but I want to get the bus safety officer here to kind of look at our parking in general and our dismissal procedures so that we can come up with a better process at the end of the school day that's safer for the students and safer for the faculty and staff as they leave. Right now, we're very limited with what we can do. So I think it's prudent that we get the safety officer here to give us recommendations.
And I think I'm right behind you on that. That's a wonderful idea, and I'm hoping to hear more in that regard. I think other than that, there are obviously a ton of changes in here. Do you feel there's anything else that would be considered substantive? Because honestly, 100 pages with the draft is a lot to try to pick things out, right?
Right. I don't believe so. It's 100 pages because it has the
Right.
strike-throughs in addition to the changes that were made. It would probably come out to about 50 pages, which is normal. I don't believe there's anything substantive. What you see in here are decisions that have been made. The dress code policy, for example, I sat down with the students. That was something we worked on collaboratively.
Yeah, I found the wording on that interesting.
Yeah, the students have been involved in this process, and the student council, Sam and I work very well together in looking over the changes that are made, and then he presents them to the council as a whole. So I don't believe there is anything that's substantive. I feel that it reflects who we are as a school now versus who we were years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Palish?
Nothing specific, but what I wanted to know was the process, and I think you talked about it. So the process for amending the handbook, who read through it, who were in the meetings, how did you, just explain the process to me and to anyone else who's just curious how you go about changing your handbook.
Sure. So I bring it to department chair meeting so that the department chairs can then bring it to their professional learning communities and talk to the teachers. Let me know of any changes that you feel should be made. Then we bring back and have discussions on those changes at faculty meetings. The student piece, I have a principal advisory committee that works with me on recognizing language in there that might be antiquated. So we look at that, and then I call in Sam and see if there's any other additional issues that the student population has with the handbook as a whole. And then I'll work with Sam, and he'll bring it back to our student council. And I have met with our student council as well. So it's very collaborative. I do bring it in front of my school improvement team. These changes have all been approved by the school improvement team prior to bringing it to you as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Mr. Dakotas?
So I like that we struck out the what we want our students to be. We put in the roadmap, so that looks a lot better. So that is a compliment on what looks good. The one question is just a follow-up. It might be a volleyball serve here, but the community service hours going down, is that year to year? Is that sort of what we're doing still? So we're still in a COVID type thing?
Yeah, because we're still in COVID, we kept it at 30. And it is something that I believe is in the best interest of the students. So we know that students now have a lot of responsibilities outside of school. And when you think about the students' commitment to their academics and their athletics and their extracurriculars, in addition to the community service, it is sometimes a burden for some students to fulfill that obligation for a graduation requirement. To the extent that, like, when they're seniors, we sometimes say, bring in a box of tissues and you get some community service. Right. And I don't think that's community service that we want our students to bring forth as a graduation requirement. So I think if we put more meaning behind, what we're requiring for community service versus just saying we want this many hours, I feel like more students will be able to meet that 30-hour requirement, okay, and it's more doable.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. And the last one is about the addition to algebra, everything by 2027. Can you just talk about that, please?
So I did bring that before this committee earlier this year. Those graduation requirements are set forth by the Rhode Island Department of Education. So it is going to go forward that it is mandated across the state of Rhode Island that every student will have to take Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 for high school graduation requirements.
Where is it now?
So right now, we have intermediate algebra in our curriculum. We have some classes that don't fulfill the same rigorous requirements that have been put forth. So Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, we know that the basis of PSAT and SAT exams is, algebra, and it's extremely important that they learn those skills, and so I think that's why they're making the requirements across the state.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Mrs. Pavo, we're back to you.
Yep. The page with early dismissals.
Okay.
It's 1 through 7 and 7 again. Should that be 8 or did that?
Mrs. Pavo,
Go
could you
with
put the microphone closer, because I
Oh,
can't even hear
sorry.
you.
So early dismissals, it's 1 through 7, but then you've got 7 again. Should that be 8 or does that line go with the 7 above it?
Paginated. It's not paginated.
It says no page numbers, but it's early
New copy
dismissals.
was, yeah.
It's the,
Early dismissal.
and at the bottom, it's the tardy to class diet.
It's page 31. It does say 6, then 7,
And
then
then
7
7
in red,
again.
yeah.
Yes, that should be 8. I'll make that correction. Thank you for pointing
Okay,
that out.
That's all I have.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Farley, it sounds like this is your creation. Any questions?
Yeah, so not really any questions. Well, that's not quite true. I have just one question. I know the answer. I think it would be useful for the committee to hear, just because it was a bit of a later change. Could you just explain the passing grade requirement for sports participation and extracurricular participation?
Sure. Currently, the Rhode Island Interscholastic League has a minimum requirement, and that's passing 60% of your classes. In looking at other handbooks across Rhode Island, almost all have you should be passing 100% of your classes, with an understanding that if you're not, we'll give you the support necessary so that you are successful in those classes. So we're putting into place a mandatory study hall for those students who are involved in academics and extracurriculars, so that we're not going to not let them participate, but we're going to have them stay after to catch up on what they need to do so that they pass those classes.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
you, go ahead, I'll have a follow-up after you.
Yeah, no, thank you, just for that explanation. I just, again, thank you, and I'd like to express to the committee that Ms. Craven has been very receptive to the students' suggestions of any changes within the handbook, and she's been very good in saying, I'm going to change this, how do you feel about this? Can you please express to the students that this may be changed in any suggestions that they might have? So I thank you, Ms. Craven.
Deb?
No, you can go and then I'll follow up, or
I'm-
it
I'm-
relates to what he talked about,
I'm
if you
good,
don't
go
mind.
ahead.
Okay. So explain that so they can not pass all their classes, like how many?
So none, according to the changes that I
Well,
made.
okay.
Prior to me making changes, we had it that they only pass 60% of their
Okay,
classes.
so now it's 100%.
Now it's
but-
100%.
But if you're starting to drop below or potential to fail,
Correct.
now you have a system in place that you can catch them, essentially.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that seems like that goes along more with our approach of restorative justice instead of
Correct. We're a restorative school, so,
Yep,
we don't
yep.
want students to fail. We don't want to be punitive by saying you
Yep.
cannot participate, but we want to give them opportunities to make academic progress.
Perfect. Thank you.
Can I also follow up along the same lines, though? I'm looking at page 51, and when you said none, that's what came out to me. There's a statement in here that says, students who have more than one failure in any course are deemed ineligible. Does that contradict, or am I misreading?
No, it does. That's at the end of the quarter. That's at the end of the quarter. So during the quarter, if they are falling behind, they have to go into mandatory study hall. At the end of the quarter, if they still fail the class, then they will have a 2-week opportunity to bring up that grade before they go back to the athletics or extracurricular activity.
Okay. I just...
And then it's a new quarter starts again. So, that's...
Is it perhaps, would it be worthwhile to kind of specify that in that paragraph?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I didn't read it that way at all. Because
Yeah.
it didn't say anything about during the quarter.
No problem. I'll add that. Thank you.
Okay, anything else from any of the committee members?
And I just did have one other follow-up, and it's just a theme that I noticed that, in addition to being restorative, we're also, it's clear by this handbook that we're also putting the foot on the academic rigor, whether it be through the RIGL requirements for math or for the, the requirements for athletics, or one that we haven't talked to yet is the increased GPA requirement for the National Honor Society, which I welcome as well. So, I do see this as most certainly a positive step forward.
Thank you. I feel the same way. I think if you challenge anyone, they will rise to the challenge.
Okay, anything else from any of the committee members?
No.
Anything from our administrators online, on Zoom? Anything online, Mrs. Delcourt? Okay. So, I think we should probably move to the middle school and take the vote in toto at the end. So, Dr. Sanquioni?
Okay, we'll turn it over to Principal Zatoli.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sort of on the opposite end of this in terms of changes. I know that Mrs. Craven made some substantial changes last year, excuse me. So prior to this, Mr. Kellett and I, the vice principal, met with her, talked about those changes, the more recent changes, and what you'll find is there weren't really any substantive changes there, with the exception of the attendance policy. The rest were names, faces, different staffing, but I'm open to any comments or suggestions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to the committee. Mr. Dakotas?
No, but if I find any, could I contact you? In the
Yes.
essence of time.
Yes, of course.
Yes. As a parent, that is
course.
correct. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Powers.
Mrs. Palish?
I don't, and thank you very much, and you're right, we did do some pretty substantive changes within the last few years. Yeah.
Correct.
But thank you.
Mrs. Barnworth?
I do want to call out the apparent change in the school day time. Small, yet noted. Just wanted to bring it to the public's attention particularly, that it appears school day will begin at 8:03 a.m. instead of 8:10.
Yeah, is that wrong? I think that's right, isn't it? Let me just double check. You may be right on that.
Page 20 I'm looking at right now. And that dismissal was adjusted a little bit as well.
Page
19 or
Mine is on page
Mine's saying 20, but. Oh, okay, yeah, it's
Yeah.
page 19 of the document. I'm sorry, it's page 20 on my screen.
page 19. So up at the top where it's crossed out, it says 8:10 and it's now 8:03.
Okay.
Yeah, the school hours do need to change. You're correct. Thank you, Diane.
Yeah. Thank you, Diane. I'll change that.
Oh, so is it not changing?
8:03.
It says, it looks like it was struck out. A student is tardy if he or she is not in class by 8:03?
Yes,
That's correct.
8:03.
So is that a change, or was there no change and it was just wrong before?
I think that was a change.
No,
No.
So it was
it's a year.
so this is an update.
This is an update.
Simply an update, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, anything else?
No, I agree. It's been looked at quite a bit over the last couple of years, so it doesn't,
Ms. Spavo
I have nothing, thank you.
and Mr. Farley.
Yeah, just one question. Referring to page 21, it says the fee to cover a lost lock was changed from $5 to $8. Is that just because the price of locks have increased, or?
Yes, I think that is with the increase in locks. We're not,
We're not
we-
making money.
yeah, we're not making money, and
Right.
we're certainly not hunting down children on that, but we do like to hold them a little bit responsible for the locks and
Right.
Chromebooks and things like that we want them to keep safe.
Right. May I ask just one more question?
Floor is yours.
Yeah. I was wondering the process in which you updated these handbooks. I'm assuming it's a little less student-oriented given they're middle schoolers, but similar in terms of going to department heads and committees, parent committees, et cetera.
Yes, little less children this year, only because there weren't really any substantive changes. And yes, through our curricular leaders and things like that. And then there's just, as we go through it during the course of the year, if we feel like something's a little off, that would also lead. And we, as we went through it with Mrs. Craven, there wasn't anything really pressing, like, oh, we've got to change that. So thus, there were not many real serious changes.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, and anything from any of our other administrators? And anything from the monitor, Ms. Delcourt? Okay, so I think we then move to the elementary schools.
Thanks, Dr. Lockett. I'm going to bring up Ms. Wardell, who will be speaking on behalf of all 3 elementary schools.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So I'll first talk about the process we used to review the handbook. So the 3 elementary principals met together, and that's my dog who just saw a bird. And then we...
Is that Manny?
Sorry. And then we brought the handbook to our school improvement teams. Each school improvement team reviewed the handbook. And then we came together again as elementary principals. We came up with whatever needed to be changed. Okay, that should be better. Or maybe not. So we only have 2 quick updates. The first update is the Fort Barton school nurse. So we'll be updating that. And then the second is the absentee policy. Are there any questions?
Okay,
I will open the floor to questions.
If you dare, Ms. Farnworth.
Well, I just took note of and this actually speaks to a wider ranging question for all of you. I'm seeing that in, the high school manual, you have specific items, middle school and elementary school. So in this particular case, school closing announcements are described here. I don't see mention of distance learning days in here unless I'm missing it, and certainly I can be wrong. I did see it in the middle school handbook. I'm not sure if it was in the high school handbook. Was it?
Distance DL days, no, it wasn't. So I do have to add that.
Yeah,
Thank you for pointing that out.
that's my overall comment for all of them, that the
Consistency.
consistency, I think, could be better.
Yeah, I agree.
On that, I saw you had lunch fees in the middle school. I don't see any mention of it in the other two.
Because they're not charging right now, so we
But
have
for
removed
next
the
year,
fees.
there
and-
is a plan at the middle school to charge.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's just the one comment I do have, that I recognize that you all worked within your own schools and with your own colleagues and student bodies. But, to perhaps take a look together and say, okay, let's add some consistency across the board for some of those items that are indeed applicable to all three would be
Agreed.
helpful.
Absolutely.
We can easily do that.
Okay. Anything else? Ms. Palish?
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Pavo?
Nothing.
And Mr. Dakotas?
Hi, Mr. Wardell. The only thing I would ask is, and I know that I've been a bug about this before, for the busing, I know it's not in here, but with Ms. Del Toro, can we make sure, especially on Fish, Main Road, the buses pick up the kids on the street side so the kids never have to cross those main roads? I know it seems every year once we get going it's okay, but it seems like in the beginning of the year, sometimes the buses come the opposite way. I know the monitors are out there, but we all know people will go around them. So especially for the elementary kids, we can just make sure, I don't know if that needs to be in here, but we have that.
I don't think it does. I think that's
Yeah.
an operational issue that
Okay.
perhaps would be taken up separately.
Yeah, it's on our
Okay.
website.
Yeah.
Definitely communicate that. That's a really good point.
Okay, because it talks about walking. It says in here, number one is about walking facing the bus for the kids. So if that's in there, it should be the way the bus picks the kids up. That's just my opinion, but thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, no problem.
Mr. Farley?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Good answer. All right. Anything from any of our other administrators or from the internet?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay. So I am going to ask for motion to approve all three handbooks with the understanding that you guys may come with some revisions or corrections, either in the near or distant future. Would someone like to make that motion?
Dr. Larkin, sorry, I think it would be, and Mr. Craven knows my opinion on this. Having worked with her for the dress code, I think it's a good idea to make sure all language in the high school is, to my standard, acceptable. But I think for the students, it would be best to have more general terms, and even for the administrators, just to make enforcement easier, more general terms that aren't so subjective. Specifically, a few of the terms in the elementary school dress code, it seems a bit redundant.
Okay, I'm going to call point of order on you, Sam. I've asked for a motion if someone would care to make it.
I'll make a motion to approve the handbooks as presented.
Understood. My apologies.
Well, but that doesn't mean we can't discuss it. We'll just
Yeah.
get a motion on the
Yeah.
floor. Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded. And the motion is to allow for revisions. I think there's actually been a lot of work done, so kind of got to get through the day. But if you want to continue, Sam, I'll let you.
Yeah, I just think to make some of the language a little more general to all students, and not specifically targeting specific students. we tackled some of these problems in the high school, in which some terms were.
Can you point to an example, Sam?
Yeah. So.
Are you looking at the elementary?
Yeah.
It refers to students.
Students shall not wear. So.
It's not he, she. It's
No, it's not. But there are certain clauses that just seem a bit redundant. Like I think students shall not wear very short skirts or mini skirts, see-through clothing, or revealing tops. I think that would be fine there. That leave the stomach showing and shoulder straps on all shirts should be at least 2 fingers wide. It's a bit. I mean, 2 fingers, as we, as Principal Craven and I discovered, it's very different. Does that mean 2
Depends on
fingers?
how big your fingers are, I guess.
Precisely.
But I do have to state that the elementary school handbook has a different audience. Our audience is really for the parents coming in. We review rules with kids with very kid-appropriate, kid-friendly language. We don't sit there and read the elementary handbook to the elementary students. It would be too inappropriate. But it's really written more for the families. But I hear your point, and I think it's a great point, and we would gladly sit together and look at how we can rework some of the language to make it a little bit more user-friendly.
Yeah, I just think many of the problems that were present in, obviously some of them not, but some of the problems that were present in the high school dress code show up in the elementary and middle school ones. I just think.
It is a different audience, though.
Certainly, but they're students
yeah,
still.
They are, but to Suzette's point, this is targeting more so the guardians, not the students. They're not reading through this handbook. And have we had any issues, Manny, Sue, or Amy? Have there been any issues with the wording? Have there been? Have you found it not helpful? Have you found it helpful? I mean, this language has been that way for a long time. I'm just curious.
Right. And, when we look at elementary kids, their parents are the ones buying their clothes. So a lot of times if we have to call a parent about a child, about wearing, like a bikini to school, at the end of school. We talk with the parents, and in all the years I've been a principal in Tiverton, we've never had any pushback or misunderstanding. But, to your point, it absolutely can use some refreshing, and I'm sure the 3 of us would be more than happy to sit to look at the language, maybe look at it between the 3 schools and see how we can be a little bit more consistent and really how we can freshen up the language to really make it more applicable.
Yeah. Obviously, as you said, wearing a bathing suit or a bikini to school would not be appropriate, but that's stated. I just think the language needs to be refreshed. Okay. I apologize for the.
No, that's a good wording.
Okay.
Yeah, we appreciate
Any other discussion from the committee or our administrators? I'm going to ask for a vote. Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Ms. Farnworth?
Yes.
Ms. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So thank you guys all very much, and look forward to ongoing collaboration with whoever you choose. All right. Next is item 7B, accept kindergarten Jumpstart grant. Ms. Donnelly Roach, I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the grant.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Donnelly Roach? Bye.
Thank you. I'm happy to share. I wrote a grant on behalf of the 3 schools. As you can see, I hope in the backup, the grant is for $18,194. And it is for kindergarten, focused on kindergarten transition at all 3 elementary schools. I want to thank Mr. Cabral, Ms. Wardell, and Ms. Amanda Scanlon, who's our elementary instructional lead at that grade level, for their input. Everyone is aware that thanks to the grant, we have additional materials, staffing, and actually books for each of our kindergartners, with the goal of all of our registered kindergartners joining us for 12 hours of this Jumpstart time at the end of the summer before the school year starts. Our hope and intent is that this time will allow them some getting to know you time for us as well as them, really, supporting their social emotional needs, their learner qualities, and a successful transition to kindergarten.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open it up to any questions or discussion from the committee. Mr. Dakotas?
Thank you for the update, Ms. Donnelly Roach. Thank you to all of you and to Ms. Scanlon. This is a great grant, which tremendously helps. Thank you to all.
Ms. Papo?
No questions.
Ms. Farnworth?
Just another thank you for the hard work on getting the grant for us.
Ms.
Ms.
Balish? Mr. Farley?
No questions. Just thank you for support, or for the support for our students.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a vote. Ms. Palish? Yes. Ms. Farnworth?
Yes.
Ms. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
I vote yes. Again, thank you very much to all 3 of you guys. Great job. Okay, next is item, where did we go? Where did it go?
We're on 8.
Brings us close to the end.
Old business?
Okay. Yeah, future meetings. I thought we were doing structural deficit at this meeting. Did that get dropped from this agenda?
No, you asked to put it on a separate agenda.
Okay, all
Don't
right,
mean-
all right. Just
That was why we had the
yeah,
additional meeting.
okay, that's right. All right. So, future meetings, we're meeting on August 2nd to discuss the structural deficit, and August 23rd. One thing I would like to put on the 23rd meeting, I thought we had discussed it. Perhaps I'm misremembering, like I misremembered this agenda. Sort of our hiring policy needs to be revised in light of the new.
Yeah, we
laws.
have,
We-
we have the hiring policy on our radar for the policy subcommittee.
okay, that's-
Peter has already sent Diane and I some policies from, that are in compliance with the new regulations, so that'll be something we'll be bringing.
Okay. All right.
We're looking at, just so you know, for a policy subcommittee, the 2 things we're going to be looking at is the field use and the hiring.
Okay, so I wasn't misremembering.
Nope.
I just couldn't find it in any minutes that I could readily access. Anyone else on either of those 2 meetings? I'll also mention that there is a public hearing on July 25th. I'm assuming here, did they ask for the town council for the charter changes?
I think it's 25th. I read it in
Yeah.
the paper, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know, Peter, if they've asked for the building?
I'm assuming
It's here in the auditorium.
Yeah.
But-
I'm assuming it's town hall.
You think it's town hall?
But
They might not be expecting a big crowd.
I think it's town hall also.
Okay.
Well, but there is a hearing on the
It
25th.
is the 25th.
It is the 25th.
I can look and see where it is. All right. I'm going to ask for a motion to move into executive session on
So-
Rhode Island. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
Finish, I'm sorry.
Hmm?
You have to finish, I'm
Oh.
sorry, I was too early.
Oh, you jumped the gun on me. All right. Rhode Island General Law 42465A1, job performance, character, physical or mental health, superintendent, goals evaluation, and legal advice, litigation, administrator contract.
So moved.
Second.
Ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
yes.
Ms. Palish?
Yes.
And I vote yes. We're in executive session.